You know, it is never too early to start teaching kids about money and how to handle it, and what your college student needs to know about managing tuition, credit card debt, before they ever even hit the job market. Well, Sanyika Calloway Boyce is here to give us first-hand knowledge from her books, Crack the Code and Teen Money Tips. And Sanyika, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. Well, tell us, how did you learn the lessons of financial hardship?
Oh, wow. Well, my mess became my message. I'm the first in my family to graduate from college, second to graduate from high school.
My.
And I wanted to do something different. I wanted to move to a different state. So New York was my big thing, but I had to go to college first. So I went to college, and I managed to stay away from credit cards for about the first 2 semesters. And then I was walking past campus one day, saw the little squeeze bottle and T-shirt. The first credit card I got, only for emergencies. The emergency was the sale at 9 West. and then it kind of started from there. So even though I did everything right academically, I did everything wrong financially.
Wow.
I graduated from college in 3.5 years and was all ready to start my life, and I realized that I was locked out of my career of choice, not because I was a woman, not because I was black, or for any other reasons that I might have wanted to give, but simply because I didn't know what I didn't know about money, credit, and debt.
That's good. So you came out with some financial debt that was crippling you going into the job market.
Absolutely. And what I didn't understand was that my grade point average, which I was really impressed with, and everybody else seemed to be, actually wasn't the thing that I was getting graded on in the real world. It was my credit score, that 3-digit number. So I graduated with 10 credit cards, and $15,000 in credit card debt. And that really handicapped me in the real world.
When you talk about, I had in my throat, pardon me, you talk about teaching money management in several steps and stages.
Yes. Yes, it's important for families, parents, to raise financially responsible kids, and that's ultimately what we want. As parents, you want to make sure that I am going to raise a child that's going to be able to take care of themselves, and possibly, if I need it, to take care of me as well. So we have to look at the stages. I mean, the first is the tween adolescent stage. What do? Well, most kids have grown up with ATMs, credit cards, the quick swipe of, and not really using cash. So whenever you say, hey, I don't have any money, kids usually say, well, can't we just go to the machine? Can't we just go to the ATM, this magic money machine? Because it doesn't, I don't quite know how the money gets in there. I just know whenever you need it, you're supposed to get it out.
It does come out of a machine.
Yeah, so I tell parents, when your kids are younger, take them to the bank. Show them that I have to give my money over to the actual person behind the counter, and then after I give it to them, then I can go to the machine. And so that they see the connection between the steps, that it just doesn't come out of this machine magically. The next thing that parents can do with their kids is they can take them to the grocery store and show them how to actually shop, so that they understand that the cereal that I'm grabbing at and this popcorn and all of these things that I want to get, we actually have a plan, a spending plan for our family, and we have to make sure that everything that we need to eat for this week or this month actually goes into the spending plan. That really helps kids not only not waste food, but also understand how money works without burdening your kids with, okay, money doesn't grow on trees and we don't have it.
Okay.
What about teenagers? How do you approach money management with them?
I encourage parents to do 2 things. The first thing is, so many kids are getting cell phones these days, and the age is getting younger and younger and younger. And a lot of times parents will put their kids on family plans. Well, the challenge with a family plan is, if your child runs over the minutes, then you're still responsible for that. And because that's tied to your Social Security number, that could potentially damage or hurt you. So parents need to understand that prepaid cell phones are a great option, so that they can not only teach their kids responsibilities with how much they're going to choose to talk, but if you go over the minutes, you don't get any more until you refill that card. So that's a great thing. Another thing is a credit card. Now, I know a lot of parents say, you know, stay away from credit. It's not good. It's bad. Stay away from it. But you have to be able to teach your kids about credit while they're still under the protective care of you. Because if you don't show them how to manage it and use it responsibly, they're going to do what I did, unfortunately, is learn by trial and error. And it'll be more error than anything else.
And they'll be able to get their own credit card, but they won't understand.
They won't understand how it works.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the next level, next stage.
In
Out
college.
of home to college.
College. What happens in college is really the importance of what I call being a transparent. At that point, your child is old enough to understand some of the lessons that you had to learn, unfortunately, the hard way. This is when you start to tell your child that, you know, this house that we live in and the cars that we drive, they didn't come without a level of sacrifice and work. So that college age is the time to really talk about that time when we were eating salads for dinner every night, or the ramen noodles, and really what that process looks like. So you're teaching your child about money and the importance of knowing how it's going to feel once you graduate from college and go to the real world, and they're not thinking that they're going to be living the same level that their parents might be living right now.
What do you suggest at the college level? I mean, we have a 16-year-old. We're looking at college, looking at the expenses of college, and figuring out scholarships and what we can afford. And kids can come out of college with tens of thousands, $100,000 in debt from college loans and tuition. How can they make it through college and hopefully minimize the cost?
Well, the first thing I'm going to recommend is look for scholarships and look for where money options are available. So many times, because the college experience is waited until the last minute, it's like, okay, now we have to get a loan because we didn't have enough lead time to really look at what are the other sources that are out there. So I encourage parents, when your child is in the 10th and 11th grade, start figuring out what are some of the other resources that can support us. Does my child play a sport? Do they have a particular unique talent that we can look for scholarships for? A lot of churches will do scholarships for, you know, to cover books or to cover clothes or certain parts of the aspects of tuition. So definitely look for those resources. And then also begin to look for ways that you can have your child, even while they're a teenager, to start working so that they're putting a little bit of money aside to pay for some of those things that might not be able to be covered in a regular traditional tuition.
And I'm sorry, honey, go ahead. What about finances for adults? At what point do we cut those strings of helping them and let them be on their own, even if they're making mistakes?
I know. That's a hard one, because actually what happens is with parents, you want to give your children the best, but there needs to be boundaries. Just like with younger children, there needs to be boundary with your adult children as well. And so a lot of times, even if you've got adult children that have moved back home or that need your financial support, even a lot of parents will say, well, you know what, I don't need the money back. But it's not about whether you need the money back or not to have your children contribute and pay. It's really about helping them see that this is a support, but it's not necessarily a net that's always going to be there. So just like they would have to go to a bank and pay back a loan, create a plan where it's like, okay, so this is what I'm supporting you with right now, but I am expected to be paid back for that, and I'm setting some boundaries so it doesn't seem like this free-for-all. And you don't feel guilty. I always, for trying to bail your child out of situations and giving them the lectures, but not really creating a situation where they're being responsible overall.
That's good.
Well, and you've written two books, two different ones, Teen Money Tips and Crack the Code. And honestly, I've looked through these. These are very, very well written, insightful. They're just practical. You try to take them through stage by stage by stage. But how do you distinguish between these two books? How are they different?
Well, they're different because the Teen Money Tips is really a 13 to 17-year-old. I mean, it's for the teen who really has an understanding of money, a basic one, but they really want to do some things on their own. They want to learn how I manage a banking account. They want to know the difference between when I get my first job, you know, what are all those acronyms that are taking money out, but I'm not getting it actually in my pocket.
When you get that
is a
first
shocker.
check.
It is about car insurance and cars, because, you know, it's not just about getting the car, it's knowing that you have to pay for insurance with the car. So it's teaching some of those basic things, 13 to 17-year-old. And then Crack the Code is really for the college age audience, 18 to 22-year-old, really helping them to learn some things. I don't probably say anything that parents haven't said. I simply say it in a way that teens and college students can resonate and they understand where I'm coming from. I'm not trying to keep you from having fun, but I lived like a college graduate when I was in college, and I got to live like a college student when I graduated. It wasn't fun. It wasn't fun to figure out which of my friends had better credit than me so we can all live in a one-room apartment. So it's sort of like, let me tell you my experience and you make the best decision based on that.
So are the books for kids or parents or both?
The books are directly for the audience. So the Teen Money Tips is for 13 to 17-year-olds to read. I encourage parents to invest in the books and give them to their teens, read them with them. Parents often tell me, you know what, I read it and I learned some things that I didn't know.
You know, you take a little detour in the Crack the Code book in a chapter you called Love Games You Should Never Play.
Yes.
Tell me about that chapter.
Well, you know what? Money, Love, and the Dream Job, which is the subtitle of the book, is really these three areas that as college, aged people, we start to think about, okay, who am I going to marry? How am I going to, what does love really mean? And I think a lot of times, when love and money start to mix, it can be a challenging situation. And a lot of times, especially as women, unfortunately, still in the 21st century, we look for men to be the answer to our financial questions. And I tell parents, I tell young adults, and I tell especially women that a man is not going to be the plan or the framework for you. You really have to learn about money and learn about relationships so that you can contribute and be healthy in those relationships.
That's good advice. It really is.
Yeah.
Well, Sanyika, thank you so much for coming. You have a couple of really great practical books. Thank you for your advice and some real practical tips that we can pass along.
Good. I'm
Hope
glad.
you'll come again.
Will do.
We'll be back with some reflections on the day right after this. Stay with us.